Very good. We are recording. All right. So many years ago, I started to think about a particular passage in the text, and this passage is in Revelation, and I want to read it to you right now. Looks like I scrolled here. Let me scroll back to Revelation 9:6. And it says, "And in those days, people will seek death and will not find it. They will long to die, but death will flee from them." Now, what does that mean? You know, I've always, when I was a baby Christian, I spent so much time in the Lord's revelation to John, not Revelations. There's no such book in the Bible called Revelations, okay? The Lord's revelation to John is a good name for it. That's how it starts, all right? But this text, I'll read it again. In those days, people will seek, in what days? This is like everything is in full swing, end times. This is right before the return of Messiah, before the return of Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus. It says, in those days, people will seek death and will not find it. And you think, like, what? How's that possible? They will long to die, but death will flee from them. Now, that's from the English Standard Version. We could read a whole bunch of other translations here just to give you an idea. This is the complete Jewish Bible. In those days, people will seek death, but will not find it. They will long to die, but death will elude them. Let's go to one of my favorites, the God's Word translation, see what it says. At that time, people will look for death and never find it. They will long to die, but death will escape them. Let's just pick one more. Let's go to the Net Bible. I like the Net Bible so much. The Net Bible's, here we go. In those days, people will seek death, but will not be able to find it. They will long to die, but death will flee from them. So we have this idea that seems very peculiar. How can you be seeking, why would you be seeking death in the first place? And how is it possible that you could be seeking death but not die? What? These people are immortal. How is that possible? Because everything Yahweh is doing is trying to prolong his life. He does not have access to the fruit of the tree of life. And we know that in the human body, there are certain things that control our lifespan. The primary one is your telomeres, and we talk about this in Two Gardens and a Snake, my most popular video. If you were able to use something like CRISPR or some other method of genetic manipulation to regrow your telomeres, something very strange would happen. Now, I've spent years and years, I've spent almost an entire decade researching telomeres and anti-aging immortality. I take supplements. We moved the drawer. I can't show you right now, but I take supplements from a nutritional company. They have a telomere support product. And actually, Rochelle's been taking it for a few months, and she has noticed some really impressive results. This stuff works. It's just herbs, but really powerful herbs. And Yahweh not having access to the fruit of the tree of life, which must be consumed periodically to maintain immortality of the biological organism, is then having everyone on his side find a cure for death, for aging. Oh. And we know, because it says right here in the Bible, in Revelation 9:6, that we will actually succeed. And here we have Jared Kushner saying this. Let me play this little clip from Jared Kushner. I'll play it as loud as I can. See if you can hear this all right.
And then finally, I think that from the last year, the one thing I've tried to put a priority on since I left the White House was getting some exercise in. I think that there's a a good probability that my generation is, hopefully with the advances in science, either the first generation to live forever or the last generation that's going to die. And so we need to keep ourselves in pretty good shape. And then finally, I think that from the last year, the one thing I've tried to put a priority on since I left the White House was getting some exercise in. I think that there's a good probability that my generation is, hopefully with the advances in science, either the first generation to live forever or the last generation that's going to die. And so we need to keep ourselves in pretty good shape.
Oh, not just anybody. This is Jared Kushner, son-in-law of Donald Trump, senior advisor to Donald Trump in his previous presidency. A lot of people complained about him and Ivanka. Don't really want to get into that right now, but this immortality thing, these people are desperately trying to regrow telomeres. There is an enormous amount of money and effort, science being put into trying to regrow telomeres. Now, there's a list of things that would need to be corrected in the body in order for you to achieve immortality, but the primary one is your telomeres. Now, here's what would happen if you're able to regrow your telomeres. This is strange, right? I'm just going to relax a little bit here. The telomeres are these little railroad tracks. When you extend the DNA to replicate the cell, you've got a machine that comes along and crunches all of the genetic code, and it's long, right? This is a really good analogy. It's kind of like my fingers here. And this is the machine that does the copying, right? And it comes along this track. But you see, this track, each tiny little microscopic sliver is genetic information, right? And so if there was no track on the end that didn't have genetic information, was just a track, what would happen is this copy machine would get to the end and it wouldn't be able to continue. No, it has to be able to keep going past all the genetic information until finally it's on the track, and then it runs along the track, but it's done its job now, right? What happens if the telomere is too short or you don't have any telomeres left? The machine can't complete its job. Well, what will happen then? The cell won't divide. It will discard everything that it's already done, and it will try again, but the cell will not be able to replicate because your DNA no longer has a track for the machine to run along to be able to get the information at the end of your DNA. And if it can't do that, the cell can't replicate and will not replicate. And the cell then, not able to replicate a fresh cell, gets old and dies, right? And that's why you die. So everyone that you see that is old has really short telomeres, and their cells can no longer replicate. When you look at a zygote, like a fertilized ovum, you've got a sperm cell and the ovum itself, and they contain an enzyme that we've called telomerase. That enzyme regrows your telomeres. That's what the supplement that I have attempts to do. The company admits, well, we're just doing our best. Obviously, we're not making any, but, some people do see some pretty stunning results when they start taking it. If you want people to live forever, to be immortal, the number one key in doing that is to regrow your telomeres. And you would do that by inducing this enzyme in the cell, telomerase. And reproductive cells, sperm and ovum, produce their own telomerase, always keeping the telomeres at maximum possible length. But what is the maximum possible length? Oh, it enables a person to live to a maximum of 120 years, just as Yahweh stated in the Bible. But I think these numbers are off the top of my head. I haven't looked at this for a little bit. When a sperm fertilizes the egg, it has about 16,000 base pairs. My numbers might be wrong here, but the general idea is correct. And then by the time you're born, you've consumed about 50% of your telomeres just in growing from that single cell ovum to a human newborn. You burn up half of your telomeres, and then you've got another half left for the rest of your life. If you, therefore, were able to regrow your telomeres, what do you think would happen? You would stop aging, right? Yes, you would. But it's more special even than that. If you were able to regrow your telomeres, let's say you've got this cell that's just aging, it can't replicate anymore because the telomeres in the cell are too short. And let's say you can coax the cell to either produce the enzyme telomerase, or you could use something like CRISPR, which is a gene editing machine that has been found in nature. It's very interesting. I've read the book from the woman who was the lead researcher on CRISPR in the whole world. I read that several years ago. And you could use CRISPR to regrow telomeres. What would happen if you did that? Yes, you would stop aging, but that's not all that would happen. You would actually start to get younger because all of these cells that have been dormant in your body, all of these wrinkles under your eyes, forehead, or your skin, you get older. As you get older, you go, okay, oh, I'm getting older, man. All of that would start to reverse. You would end up looking like a 16 to 20-year-old person permanently. And it's interesting that when you look at the Mesopotamian gods, what you will find, especially when you look at some of the Sumerian statues, well, not just there, but I mean all across the Mesopotamian region, if you look at the gods that have been carved into stone, they all have these baby faces. Why? It's obvious now, isn't it? So they've got fully grown hair, and they grow these big long beards, which I think is perhaps some way of demonstrating their actual age, because they look like young people. They're tall. They look like fully grown adults in terms of their muscle tone and everything, but their faces are very childlike. They've got these baby faces. It's not a coincidence. If you were able to regrow your telomeres, you wouldn't just live forever. You would become young again and live forever as a young again person. But it's even crazier than that. You could cut your skin and it would heal so unbelievably rapidly. Perhaps not in front of your eyes, but let's say right now it would take, a good month if you did that, and you'd be left with a scar. Well, scar tissue will still form, even if you have telomeres, because that's a leftover of repair. But if you cut yourself, and let's say it would take, a month normally for that to completely heal up, this is probably going to happen in 2 or 3 days. The same process that would right now take a month. Because all of the cells affected are like newborn cells. And they can just go straight to work with unbelievable speed to heal you. Oh. So, what would happen if someone shot you? Right? What would happen if someone got a big hole now in your shoulder all the way through the outside? What's going to happen? How quickly are you going to heal? Really fast. You're probably not going to die. And all of the cells in your body are like this, all fighting to keep the organism alive. And they all have the ability to reproduce and repair so fast. Shall I read that text again? What did it say? In those days, people will seek death, but will not find it. They will long to die, but death will elude them. I can't even imagine all of the other problems that would be associated with this artificial attempt to induce immortality to the organism through regrowing your telomeres. But there'll be side effects. It's not going to be like pure and as tree of life. the tree of life that we're going to get to consume. But you see how Satan Yahweh here is making sure that he replicates a lot of this stuff. Oh, we're going to create immortality. And by the way, who is saying this? Jared Kushner, a Jew, who is a Jew, who swears allegiance to Yahweh proudly, and is one of the most powerful people in the world. And he's not talking crap. Let's listen to him again. Let's hear what he had to say.
And then finally, I think that from the last year, the one thing I've tried to put a priority on since I left the White House was getting some exercise in. I think that there's a good probability that my generation is, hopefully with the advances in science, either the first generation to live forever or the last generation that's going to die. And so we need to keep ourselves in pretty good shape.
This is not, some blogger posting something on the interwebs. This is Jared Kushner, senior advisor to President Trump in his previous term. This guy is one of the most powerful, influential people in the whole world. And what is he saying? That he thinks this is the last generation that'll die. We are about to crack immortality. Why do they have to get rid of everybody? Why do they want to get rid of the majority of the human population? Why is that so important? What are you going to do with 8 billion people that don't die? Well, you and me are not getting access to telomere regrowth, right? But some people will be, like Jared Kushner, Donald Trump. Now, people sometimes say, well, what do you think about Donald Trump? Well, I've talked about Donald Trump a long time. I really championed his run for president in 2016. And, I was very, very open about that. And a lot of people voted for Trump. And, a lot of people love Trump. But you can go back onto Facebook, just search on my Facebook profile for Trump Antichrist. And there's 2 videos up there that I did years ago about the possibility that Donald Trump is the beast in Revelation, possessed of Yahweh, the beast in Revelation. Donald Trump is a terrifically ugly person. Well, it's interesting in Daniel's prophecy where he says that the abomination of desolation will stand in the most holy place. What is that? Is that a person? Now, what does that mean, the abomination of desolation? Let's put it into simpler words instead of this biblical jargon. The ugly one who causes destruction will stand in the most holy place. What is the most holy place? There's really no dispute about that. That will be the third Jewish temple. Who is Donald Trump? Who is Elon Musk? Who is Jared Kushner? Who are these people? And what is going on right here? There's something going on. And as things get closer and closer to the events unfolding in Revelation, like I said in my talk yesterday, I did a live stream yesterday on my Facebook profile. And like I said there, we're in a time where people don't understand the Bible, and so they turn everything into metaphor so that they can turn it into anything they want. Someone is probably going to say, oh, Israel, you're taking that text too literally. No, it's metaphorical. Let me explain what it really means. Well, you're wrong. You shouldn't be taking that metaphorically. As we get closer and closer to these events unfolding, you're going to see how literal all this stuff is. Now, you may think, okay, but hang on, Israel, let's keep reading. Okay, let me keep reading here, verse 7 of the same part in the text here. Now these locusts look like horses outfitted for battle. On their heads were what looked like crowns of gold, and their faces were like human faces. They had hair like women's hair, and their teeth were like those of lions. Their chests were like iron breastplates, and the sound their wings made was like the roar of many horses and chariots rushing into battle. They had tails like those of scorpions with stings, and in their tails was there to hurt people for 5 months. Huh. Interesting. Sounds like metaphor, right? I absolutely guarantee you it's not. This is somebody that was watching a literal event, John in this case, unfold and is reporting it. And it may seem strange to us. It is strange to us. There's no doubt about that. But as we get closer to this actually occurring, we'll start to see, oh, it's this thing. That's what's going on. Right? Because if we went back 100 years and we read verse 6 where it's talking about all these people being immortal and seeking death, what context would you have? You don't know anything about telomeres. You certainly don't know anything about CRISPR or how to edit genes and regrow your telomeres so that you might be able to be immortal. But as we get closer and closer, the things that appear to be metaphor and allegory begin to take shape as being actually literal, which is why my primary way of approaching the text is literalism. I want to look at it and go, I'm going to take this at face value first. Now, there's metaphor and allegory in the text. Of course, the Lord always spoke in parables, so there's definitely metaphor in the text. But it's important that we don't turn things that are not metaphor into metaphor, so then we can turn them into anything we want. What is going to happen in this generation, right, very soon, is that we are going to crack this. Now, you might go, huh? If he's talking about it now, then it's probably already happened. Yeah, of course, for them, not for you and I. But yes, the global elite, people like Donald Trump, Jared Kushner, they will have access to this. They got all the money in the world. And they will get these treatments and they will regrow their telomeres and they will become young again and they will live forever. And things are going to be so bad, they will seek death and they won't be able to find it. People will jump off buildings to commit suicide. They will be splattered on the ground, dead. Heart has stopped beating, not breathing anymore. But because of the remaining energy in their body and their cells' ability to replicate, they will reanimate and come back to life. People will take a gun and shoot themselves in the head. And all of the brain matter, the skull, everything will come back together and heal, and they will reanimate. They will seek death, and they will not be able to find it. How will you kill these people? The same way they killed John the Baptist, and for the same reason. They will cut their head off. It's probably the only way that there's going to be to kill them. It's right in the Bible, Revelation 9:6. In those days, people will seek death, but will not find it. They will long to die, but death will elude them. Isn't that strange? The very opposite of everything right now. Everybody wants to be immortal. I want to be immortal. You want to be immortal. Now, you may say, well, not in this world. Sure, I understand that. But if it was a perfect world or a much better world, then yeah, if you can enjoy your family and friends forever, of course you would. Right? Maybe there will come a point in time where you go, I've lived for 20,000 years and I think I'm just going to die of old age now, stop consuming the fruit of the tree of life, and maybe, your choice, perhaps, I don't know, just speculating. But everybody right now would like to live longer, right? And they're going to be able to, not you and I, but the elite, absolutely, are going to have access to medical technology that is going to regrow their telomeres and enable them to be immortal. And they will seek death and not be able to find it. Really hard to kill a god. There are stories in the ancient texts. We can see some of the prisons that were built for gods. There's one of these big prisons in Egypt. It's a big pit in the ground. And probably a very similar pit to the one that the text says that Yahweh will be bound in. A bottomless pit, a pit that's extremely hard to get out of. And we have one of those in Egypt. It's currently in a military base and has been used as a trash like a garbage dump for decades. And really, it needs to be excavated and become a major archaeological site. But they won't do it. Because things like that start to unlock the reality of the biblical text. Right? We have a bottomless pit. We have at least one example. I think we've now got two examples. I haven't looked closely at the one that was found a little while ago. Is that what Yahweh is going to be put in for 1,000 years while we restructure the planet, while we physically resurrect everybody? So we live in very unusual and strange times. I'm going to make a cohesive video on this and post it within a few days. I think this is so important. And, I know that some of my friends are nearing the end of their lives. Some of us, most of us, though, here, I'm sure, are going to see a lot of these things with our own eyes. We're going to see things that, few humans have ever seen in all of human existence. And it's all happening now. I think what Jared Kushner has said in this video is so important that when I saw that video this morning, I've got kind of this meter, this needle. Are we approaching the return of Messiah? Like, no, definitely. And like my needle moved a whole lot more towards definitely this morning when Jared Kushner said this. Something's happening. The biblical text is coming true before our eyes. And there's going to be a lot of strange things occurring over the next 10 years or so. I think this is it. I don't know, but I do think this is it. We'll see. All right? Someone's going to say, Israel thinks this is it. Well, yeah, I think. I didn't say I know. I think, yeah. I think this is it. I think this is it. What do you think? I think we're about to see the strangest things we've ever seen in our lives. We will crack immortality, and it's not going to be pretty. People are going to want to die rather than be immortal. And they won't even be able to kill themselves. And we're going to see that, and it's right in the Bible. It's pretty mind-blowing, isn't it? So we're about to go out and do some errands. When I'm back, I'm going to start working on a video that I'm going to publish on YouTube probably tomorrow. I want to get it up really fast. And we'll go and do this in more detail. So this will be now published to the full group. And I hope you enjoyed listening to this. Thank you for your time. And hopefully you'll like the video. We'll be talking more about this in the Founders Club. And we'll do a preview of the video in the Founders Club. And then we'll do the real thing, record it, and post it on YouTube for everybody. Right? Because the gospel is free, not cheap. Everything I do that is in digital format is free. Okay, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for listening. Mysterious times that we live in. And I think this is it. I don't know, but I think this is it. All right. Have a wonderful weekend, rest of your weekend, and I'll see you shortly. Take care. Thank you.